Everybody, this is lecture for Tuesday 21st of December. So in this lecture is for topic 7. The title of the topic is corporate governance. This is part 1. The next lecture is topic 8, corporate governance part 2. So let's see. Okay, these are the learning objectives of this topic. So see here, you have to learn 4 things. The first one is agency theory, and then stewardship theory, and then contrasting theories, and ethics and corporate governance. Okay, see, I think this is the first thing that you have to know. It is about the definition of corporate governance. I think you have heard the term corporate governance many times. See here, corporate governance is the system of rules, practices, and processes by which a company is directed and controlled. And then corporate governance essentially involves balancing the interests of a company's many stakeholders, such as shareholders, management, customers, suppliers, financials, government, and community. So when you hear about the term corporate governance, it is a system to govern a company, a system to govern a company, a big business. So that is the thing about corporate governance. And when we discuss about governing a company, you have to know that there are many stakeholders for a company. Stakeholders means parties that have interest in the company. When you govern a company, you have to consider the interest of several parties. These parties are called stakeholders. The stakeholders are shareholders, managers, customers, also one of the stakeholders, suppliers, lenders, government, and the community. These parties have interest in the company, so they are important. They can influence the way a business is governed or is managed. Okay, so and then the next thing in this chapter is you have to learn about agency theory. So remember, a theory explains about something. Agency theory explains the relationships between agents and principals. The second point there, the agent represents the principal in a particular business transaction and is expected to represent the best interest of the principal without regard of self-interest. This leads to the principal-agent problem. So agency theory explains about the relationship between agents and principals. In a big company, one of the agency relationship that you can see is the company is owned by shareholders. A big company or a company is owned by shareholders. For example, let's say Petronas. Petronas is a company. It is owned by shareholders. So shareholders invested money. They purchased shares of Petronas. It means that they have invested money in the company. But there are thousands of shareholders of Petronas, including Malaysian government, individuals, institutions also from Malaysia and maybe outside Malaysia. Okay, these shareholders, they invested money into the company. They purchase shares. It means that they invested money in the company. They are the principal. They own Petronas, but they not necessarily manage Petronas. Petronas is a big company. So what the shareholders do is they hire managers. They hire CEOs, CFOs, and other other managers to manage the business. So the shareholders are principals, and managers are agent. Managers, particularly CEOs and other managers under him or her, manage the day-to-day operation of Petronas. They are agents. The principal is the shareholders. That is what agency theory explains. Agency theory explains that in every business, the principal is the shareholders and the agent is managers. But there is a problem. The problem is principal own the business or own the company, but they don't have time to monitor the managers 24/7. They don't have time. They don't even stay in the office. Okay, that is one thing. And the agent, the managers, they most of the time they do not own the business. They work in the business. They work in the company. So they have self-interest. That is the situation is called agency problem. The problem of the agent might not work for the interest of the principal. Okay, let's see here. The role of agency theory in corporate governance. So actually, it is not very the title is not very accurate. Theory has no role in a corporate governance. The theory explains about the corporate governance. Okay, so see here the first point. The principal agent problem occurs when the interests of a principal and agent are conflict. This conflict presents normally ethical individuals with opportunity for moral hazard. Incentives may be used to redirect the behavior of the agent to realign this interest with the principal. Like I said earlier, the principal or the shareholders of the business own the business. They invested money in the business or the company. They want return for their investment. That is their interest. They want high return for their investment. But the managers, they are agent. They work on behalf of the shareholders, but they also have their own self-interest. They have their own self-interest. So most of the time, the interest of the shareholders and the interest of the managers are conflicting. So how shareholders or the principal, what the principals can do to make sure that the managers or agent work on their behalf. So one way they do is they provide incentive. They will promise something like, if the business is making high profit, the manager will be given salary increment, will be given bonus, etc. So that is one thing. Incentive is used by the principal or shareholders to make sure that the agent or managers work on their behalf, work according to the interest of the principal. Corporate governance can be used to change the rules under which the agent operates and restore the principal interest. The principal by employing the agent to represent the principal interest must overcome a lack of information about the agent's performance of the task. Like I said earlier, agency theory explains that the shareholders or the principal has no time to monitor the manager or agent 24/7. They have no time, and they cannot also. They not even stay in the office. Many shareholders are not even stay in the office. So they are not full-time worker. Shareholders are investors. They are not full-time worker of a company. So that is a problem. They don't have information. The manager have more information about the business compared to the shareholders. And then agents, see second last one. Agents must have incentives encouraging them to act in unison with the principal interest. So the principal has to do something to make sure that the managers or agent work in line with the interests of the principal. Incentives considering. Okay, the last point. Incentives considering what interests motivate the agent to act. Encouraging the wrong behavior must be removed. Rules discouraging moral hazard must be in place. Understanding the mechanism that create problem helps businesses develop better corporate policy. So it is interesting. Agency problem is widely accepted theory. Agency theory is I think the most widely accepted theory that can be used to explain the corporate governance. If you read research articles, I think almost maybe 90%, maybe 80% of research articles about corporate governance will use agency theory. As their theoretical framework. Very useful theory. A theory that explains about the corporate governance. Okay, this is the second theory that also explain about corporate governance. It is called stewardship theory. Okay, so the first point there, a steward is defined as someone who protects and takes care of the needs of others. Under the stewardship theory, company executives protect the interests of the owners or shareholders and make decisions on their behalf. So this is another theory. Remember, I think I have explained to you what is a theory. A theory something explains about something. Maybe it is correct, maybe it is not. So you have seen in the previous slide, agency theory explains about corporate governance. There is another theory that also explains about corporate governance. That theory is called stewardship theory. According to this theory, see the first point, I have read that. And then also the second point. The third point, the sole objective is to create and maintain a successful organization so that shareholders prosper. Firms or company or businesses that embrace stewardship place the CEO and chairman responsibilities under one executives with a board comprised mostly of in-house members. This allows for intimate knowledge of organizational operation and a deep commitment to success. According to this theory, you can see that according to this theory, a steward is defined as someone who protects and takes care of the needs of others. So according to this theory, in a company, there are many parties in a company or stakeholders in a company. And also there is a steward, someone who protect and takes care of the needs of the others in the company. So according to this theory, company executives are the party that protect the interests of the owners or shareholders of the company. So remember agency theory. Agency theory explains that managers or executives, they have self-interest. They may not do things for the best interest of the company, but for the best of their interest. That is agency theory said. But stewardship theory said the managers or executives protect the interests of the shareholders. That is another way to explain the corporate governance. So this, you can see the difference between these two theories. The role of stewardship theory in corporate governance. The stewardship theory of governance has a clear objective of shareholder satisfaction. Having a single leader creates one channel to communicate business needs to the shareholders and the shareholders needs to the business. This also avoids confusion as to who is in charge when a company needs to weather a storm or facing problems. Stewardship governance requires that a CEO be trustworthy and willing to put personal gains aside for the good of the organization. So this is the way stewardship theory explains about corporate governance. Contrasting theories. So this explains about how agency theory explanation is different compared to the stewardship theory explanation. See the first point. To better understand the stewardship theory, it is helpful to contrast it with two other popular governance style. The agency theory focuses on check and balances. Type of governance. The CEO and chairman of the board are two distinct entities. The board of directors, which is comprised of mostly independent members, is tasked with monitoring management to avoid problems. So if we use agency theory to understand corporate governance, we will do something like the second point said. We will make sure in a company there is a check and balance. Somebody has to check the managers because they have their own self-interest. They may act on their own they act based on their self-interest rather than the interest of the shareholders. That is what we do if we use agency theory. See the point number 3. The stakeholder theory examines the need of not only shareholders but every faction associated with the organization, including the employees, suppliers, and business partners, and no one group is more important than the other. I'm not sure about the stakeholder theory, but we have seen the stewardship theory. Okay, but stewardship theory explains that CEO protect the interests of the stakeholders. So if we use stewardship theory to explain corporate governance, then we will say that in a company, the CEO and the chairman has to be one person, because the person will protect the interests of the shareholders. I think you have to know how agency theory explains about corporate governance, and also how stewardship theory explains about corporate governance. So finding the right fit is it means that we have to use both theories or other theories also when we want to understand about corporate governance. See here, there are several points here. Each business organization is unique. in its product, customer, and goals. Recognizing that corporate governance is necessary is the first step to a successful business management that needs to determine the governance strategy that best fits its identity, whether it be agency, stewardship, or shareholders, or hybrid of all three. Opting for stewardship governance requires that the right personality is on board to lead the organization. Okay, so it means that there are many ways, there are many theories that can explain the corporate governance. So if you have a company, you have to aware about that fact. There are many theories that can explain about corporate governance. So you have to find the best approach to govern your company. Maybe you have to combine the explanation provided the agency theory and the stewardship theory and other theories. You find the best fit, the best approach, then you do it, you implement it in your company. Ethics and corporate governance. So corporate governance, remember, corporate governance is a system used to govern a company. So it is related to ethics. Everybody, all the stakeholders must do ethical things, must do morally acceptable behavior to make sure that the corporate governance is working. Otherwise, problems will happen. Okay. We have seen last week or a week before last week that if one of the benefit of ethics is it will make a business become good business, make good profit, functioning well. So that is the importance of ethics. So that's why ethics is related to corporate governance. Good governance means you have good ethical behavior in a company. Okay, let's see, there are several points here. Ethics is the first line of defense against corruption, while law enforcement is remedial and reactive. Okay, that is the first box. Second box, good governance goes beyond rules and regulations that the government can put in place. It is also about ethics and the values which drive companies in the conduct of the business. The third box, good governance practice cannot guarantee any corporate failure, but the absence of such governance standard will definitely lead to questionable practices and corporate failures. Okay, see here the fourth box here. In making ethics work in an organization, it is important that there is synergy between visions and statements, mission statements, core values, general business principles, and code of conduct. And then the last box here, an effective ethics program requires continual reinforcement of strong values. Organizations are challenged with how to make employees live and involve the organization codes and values to ensure the right ethical climate. A right combination of spirit and structure is required. Okay, so that's the essence, or the main idea is you will have good governance if you have good or ethical person or people inside a company. Otherwise, you will not achieve good corporate governance. That is the end of this lecture for topic 7. Like I said several times, the lecture will be brief because the approach for this course is student-centered learning. You will learn from the lecture, maybe half of the thing. Another half is through your readings, of the research article and presenting the article. Thank you very much. Do not forget to write your name and matric number in the comment section. I will record that as the lecture attendance.